Hi, I'm Wade Anderson, a program manager on the Visual Studio Code team. In this video, I'm going to show you what's new and exciting in Visual Studio Code. Let's jump right in. The first thing I want to show you is the Insiders version of VS Code. You can get the Insiders version on VS Code's website here at code.visualstudio.com. We'll click Insiders Build. VS Code Insiders is the daily build we use to build VS Code. This version gives you access to the latest features as soon as we check them in. The browser will auto-detect what your operating system is, and then you can click to download. I'm running on a Mac, so I will download VS Code Insiders for Mac. The download is small at just under 50 megs, so it will take only a second. VS Code opens with a blank editor screen, so you can immediately start typing, or you can open a folder. Alternatively, I have installed an extension to help me navigate around my projects. This is one of my most favorite extensions. Use the command palette to open the extension. We can open the command palette on a Mac by doing Command-Shift-P, or if you're on a Windows or Linux machine, you can do Control-Shift-P. This opens a screen so we can see all the different commands available in VS Code. We're going to type git project, press enter. This will take a few seconds, and now I can navigate to all of my Git projects in my folder structure. So we're going to look for to-do list, press enter. That extension is called Git Project Manager. You can see that right here. It allows you to quickly jump between your Git projects. Let me give you a short guide of what you're seeing with Visual Studio Code. The far left is the activity bar buttons. We can browse our folder and files, search and replace globally. This is for version control. As we make changes to files, they will show up here, allowing us to then commit and push those changes. Debug screen, and this viewlet allows us to manage our extensions. You can see these are the 5 extensions I have installed. Let's write some code. First, we want to create a new feature branch. We can do that via the command palette, and then type git branch. We want to create a new branch, so we'll run the branch command. Now we'll provide a branch name, connect demo, and press enter. VS Code wraps UI around the tools you commonly use from the command line, just like we did here with git branch. The benefit of this is we can now put a key binding on that action. Let me show you how to do that. We'll open the keyboard shortcuts with the command palette, keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to close the viewlet there and make my screen larger for us to see. Now I want to create a keyboard shortcut for creating a new Git branch to demonstrate how we can apply Git commands or other commands in the command palette. Over here on the left is the default keyboard shortcuts, and on the right are the keyboard shortcuts that I'm going to customize for my own uses. If we trigger IntelliSense, we can do that here with Control Space. This is a common thing to remember in VS Code. Wherever you are, press Control Space, and it will give you suggestions on what is available to do in that context. Now we'll press Enter. And now we're going to give it the key binding that we want. I think a good one here is Shift, G, and then B. I do a space for the key chord, and then a plus when you need to press the keys at the same time. The command we want here is for creating a Git branch. Again, trigger IntelliSense, Control Space, and type branch. You can see it's workbench, action, git, start git branch. Now, I didn't remember that, but because of IntelliSense, I can quickly find that there. And we don't need a when clause. You can use when clauses when you want to put things, when you want to have actions that are only available in editor focus, for example, or editor text focus, as you can see over here on the left. So I'm going to delete the when clause, save that. And now if I type Shift-G and then B, now I have a keyboard shortcut to open a Git branch and create a new Git branch if I decide to. I'm not going to need to do that today. We'll escape, save our file, close it. We'll go back to our code. Not only can you customize your key bindings one by one, but if you're coming from another editor and you want keyboard shortcuts for that editor, you can install a Keymap extension. Keymap extensions are found here in the extension marketplace. We'll type category, Keymaps. See there are extensions for Vim, Emacs, IntelliJ, Atom, Sublime Text, and Eclipse. Here if we click on the Sublime Text Keymap and then Contributions, you can see all of the different keyboard shortcuts that are available that are ported from Sublime Text to Visual Studio Code. This includes popular key bindings like Command-L or Control-L for expanding line selection. If you're comfortable in these other tools with key bindings, you can bring that here to VS Code. There are a lot of extensions in the marketplace. Another popular query is category and then themes. There are hundreds of different themes available to customize VS Code with. If we open the command palette and type themes, we'll see preferences color theme. These are themes that are shipped with VS Code by default. By going up and down with the keypad, I can decide which theme I want. We're going to change here to the Monokai theme. I can also install file icon themes. I type file icon, press enter. File icons are these little icons next to the file name over here in the file browser, such as JS or this small little picture purple icon. We can change those icons here. VS Code Great Icons is a popular extension. Or if we prefer not to have them, we can disable them. You can also see you can find more in the marketplace, just like we could for color themes. Before we start writing code for our project, we want to install the Node modules. We can do that by opening the integrated terminal. In the command palette, type terminal, create new integrated terminal. Also notice there's a key binding action right here, Control-Shift-Tick. Press enter. The benefit of the integrated terminal is it opens in the context of your workspace. So I don't have to then navigate to where I need to go. I'm already there. Now if I type npm install, press enter. While that is running, let me show you a little more about the integrated terminal feature. You can add additional terminals by clicking the plus button over here. Change between terminals with the drop-down. VS Code also supports integrating different shells. If I open the settings, lower the terminal a bit. And by the way, I opened the settings with a key binding. It was Command, comma. You can do that on Windows and Linux with Control, comma. Or you can do it in the command palette with settings, open user settings. So here in settings, going to trigger IntelliSense. There's a bunch of different options we can do for the terminal. You can see these here. Terminal integrated, including font family, font ligatures, font size. You can also change the shell for Linux and Windows, and add shell arguments for all three platforms. So a bunch of things you can do to customize your terminal experience. Let's jump back here. npm install has finished running. So if we open up here, we can see we have our node modules in the correct location. Now that we have our node modules installed, we can run our app. We do so by typing task, then dev, and I'll show you how that works here. We're going to open the command palette, type task, we'll do run task, and then this is going to give us an option of which task to run. Now you're probably wondering, what's going on here? What are tasks? Well, tasks are a loosely coupled, lightweight way that VS Code interacts with the command line tools that you know and love. This configuration is set up in tasks.json. We'll click this here. So I set this up before, and what this does is we're saying, hey, run the npm command, and then here's the name of the task and the arguments we want to pass in here. So these are mapped to what we have here in package.json. And if I open both of these, tasks and package.json, I can open these to the side, open to the side here. And if I prefer to see them horizontally instead of vertically, I can do that as well. So here is package.json, and at the bottom is tasks.json. You can see that I'm mapping what is in my scripts tag, here serve and dev, with serve and dev. Right there's on lines 8 and 9. So this allows you to run, if we do task, then dev, press enter. Now this is, it pops up the browser, and we're using Webpack Dev Server to serve up the resources here. Going back to, so this will load, and this will give you an idea of what we're looking at here with the app, is we're making a to-do list of just a simple to-do list, things we can keep track of and then manage those to-dos. So if we jump back to VS Code, and we can see this is the output window we get when you run a task. Over here, if we want to look at the get output extensions or certain extensions, including ESLint and TypeScript, will send output here. This allows us to keep track of the logging from the task that's running. So I find tasks especially useful, and for a similar reason that I showed you before is we can assign tasks key binding. So you can get this if you have been using IDEs that are popular. Generally, the F5 command is what's used to build an application. You can set up VS Code to do that same thing for you. It's the philosophy we've taken with VS Code is it's very customizable to the workflow that you prefer. Our to-do application relies on a microservice which we also have here in our workspace. That's right here with server. I'm going to demonstrate the debugging features of VS Code by launching that microservice. Here, if I close these files, clean up our workspace a little bit. This is the configuration. I get to this by clicking the little gear icon here. If you haven't created one of these before, then the gear icon will generate one for you. My debugging configuration is simple. I have two different ways to debug. I have attach to process, which will look at the already running node processes and allow me to attach to it. And I also have launch the process. You'll notice something new with the debugging configuration that you may not have seen before. These grayed out areas, these are what's required. We're saying these are defaults and you need to have these. Everything else is optional. So hopefully this helps make it easier to set up debugging for Node applications, and other applications will have a similar workflow you can do, other languages you may use. So to use, you'll see all I did here is I said I'm going to name this guy launch, and then I'm setting my current working directory. That's what CWD stands for. And if you hover over it, we're going to give you a hint here. We'll say the absolute path to the working directory that's being debugged. And then program, this is what, this is a generated value. This is the path to the program. And I actually added this /server/server.js. So if we look back here, this is the file I want to start. We'll start debugging by clicking the green icon. That will launch our application. You can see I have a little bit of logging here saying listening on port 3001. Now if we jump back to our application in the browser, we type take out the trash, press enter, that adds a to-do. What we can do now in VS Code is we can set a breakpoint. So if I open my server.js, and I'm just going to make this debug console, we can lower that here or just close it down altogether. Notice the debugger is still running. You can see that up here, which allows us to pause it, restart, and stop. And the status bar has changed from blue to orange. That's indicating that you're in debug mode. So what I want to do is I want to add a breakpoint here to where we're adding a new to-do. So now if we jump back to the browser and we say clean the kitchen, you can tell I have a lot of chores to do. Press enter. We're taken immediately back to Visual Studio Code. And you get everything you'd expect. If you haven't used the debugger, this will be a really big step up from console log debugging. If we click the debug icon again, and you can see all the different variables here to the left. If we hover over the variables, we can see them, the information in them as well. We can step through our code just like you would expect from a debugger, maybe in an IDE-like experience. We're getting this all here in VS Code. And if we open the debug console, this is really cool and a new feature that we've released in the last couple months. You actually will get IntelliSense as you type in here. So this is all in the context of where the breakpoint is set. So if we do request.body and press enter, okay, so this starts to become similar to what you would get if you're doing front-end debugging in Google Chrome, or if you're doing debugging in IDE, like in other IDE-like products. So we can see this here, the text of it, the timestamp, and the ID. I want to show this here with the ID, because another thing we can do here in VS Code is set a conditional breakpoint. So if I right-click and then choose Add Conditional Breakpoint, I'm going to say when the ID equals 15. So you can see that's the to-do we're just barely adding. I want to show in this other context how we can have a conditional breakpoint. So we're going to continue on there. And now we have this breakpoint. If we go back to the browser window, and here we're going to do a delete. How we delete the to-dos is we're going to click this here. Now clicking clean the kitchen, you'll see I'll hit this conditional breakpoint. ID is supposed to equal 15, which ID equals 15, so the breakpoint is hit. If we step into this code, this actually brings me to the code I want to write. So right now we don't have anything that will allow us to delete a new to-do. If I press play here, go in. Okay, so the code I want to write, and I have some of this commented. I'm going to uncomment this portion. And then what I need is some way to filter out, I want to take my list of to-dos and then filter out the one ID I don't want, or delete the to-do from the existing list. And I can do that here with a third-party module. Many of you are probably familiar with Lodash, which is commonly done with an underscore. So I do underscore dot. And look, I have all of the methods for Lodash right here at my fingertips. Now, if I jump over here, you can see this is where the variable is declared, var underscore equals require Lodash. And if I go into there, now let me do that again because you might not be sure what I'm doing here. I'm actually pressing Command and then clicking. This is a common way to navigate through your code and something that VS Code supports. Alternatively, you can right-click and then do Go To Definition, or even this Peek Definition, which will allow you to peek into where the definition is without changing the file that you're in. So this, we F12 into Go To Definition. This is taken to this index.d.ts. What is this file? Well, this is what is given to us from the TypeScript service. This is a type definition or type declaration file. And And you might be wondering, well, where does this come from? Well, VS Code, via the TypeScript language service, will go and get this for you. And this TypeScript language service powers JavaScript and TypeScript. And this is done for you automatically. So this is a brand new feature. It's available in Insiders today. And this feature is called Automatic Type Acquisition. So before you could get this, but you would have to go to the command line and type typings, install, and then the name of the typings you would want to get, such as Lodash in this case. And you'll also notice if you look here in app, in server, if you've used VS Code before, you might be wondering, where is the jsconfig.json? Well, that is no longer needed in the latest version of VS Code. I'll say it's no longer needed, but if you do want to add it, it can add performance and can be a good way to separate where your JavaScript projects are. So this is one of the newest and coolest things in VS Code today, is that IntelliSense will just work for you. So you don't have to do anything but put Lodash in your package.json and VS Code will go and get it. So I do dot type filter, and now I'm going to say I want to filter on the data. We'll say function to do. We'll do this, type that out there. And you'll notice when I was doing this, you'll probably saw I got parameter hints. Let me show you that just one more time so you can see that. So we do filter, and here are the parameter hints. So it's telling me pass in the collection and then the predicate. And you can see that we also show the method that's overloaded for the different things you can pass in here. So we're going to do data function to do, just like I had before. And we're going to say we want to filter this data object for everything. We're going to say where todo.id does not equal now this ID. So this ID is coming from up here. This is the ID we want to delete. And I just realized we actually want to do data.todos. So we're going to take our existing list, which we're getting here, and we're going to then filter out the ID we don't want with this predicate. And I'm doing this to demonstrate how we can get Lodash methods and the Lodash typings information for us right here. So we'll delete this guy, and we will then recommit the data object with the filtered out to-dos. So if we save that, and then let's restart our node service, and we'll jump back here, and if we click this, again, it hits our breakpoint. We step in, step over, play, and now it's gone. And we do take out the trash. So you can see here another item and delete. It works just how we coded it up to work. Now, finishing our work here, we'll want to run formatting. You can see that VS Code has a formatter built in. I can do this format document here, or if I just want to select this section of code, I can do format selection. And this is helpful if you have a stray, say some of the tabs or spacing got messed up, we can use our formatter. And there you go, we format selection. In settings, there's ways you can customize that to have even more fine-grained control. Maybe your team has a certain style they want to adhere to. And if you want even more control, you can go over here, and I'm going to do show installed extensions, and you can install a linter. So this one is the ESLint extension. And this uses a third-party ESLint to then give you more fine-grained control on your styles that you want to mark as not valid. If you want additional formatters, you can do category, then formatters, and there's a whole bunch of formatters you can get for different languages, Beautify being a really popular one for JavaScript code. So we have now formatted our code. We talked about linters. Let's finish off our code by going here, and we'll choose database.js. So you can see where we're at, and let me save this file. We'll jump back. If you haven't seen the version control before, what we have here is we have the changes we made. On the left side is the head information, so this is where it was previously, and on the right side is the code that we wrote. So we can then go over here and we're going to click this plus to stage. So we're using get version control, and this is our data that we've now added, so we can stage that as well. And we will say added remove to do feature. And then we can commit that by clicking the check mark, and that will then commit it. If we realize we wanted to undo that, we can do undo last commit, and there's other things in here we can do with pulling and pushing. We can go down, and this button right here will publish our branch or push it up to remote. Alternatively, you can type git push here in the command palette to then push the commit we just made. So there's a lot of new things in VS Code. I've showed you just the tip of the iceberg today. We talked a lot about JavaScript, but there's support for many different languages. If I go here and say show popular extensions, you can see we have ones for C#, Python. This debugger for Chrome allows you to debug front-end code within VS Code, which is very cool. C++, HTML snippets. Extensions allow you to customize VS Code. There's over 2,000 of them in the marketplace today. So want to invite you to go and download Visual Studio Code. Again, you can do that at code.visualstudio.com. Try out the Insiders build. That's the green icon you're seeing down here. Or you can do the stable build, which we release monthly. So download it, give it a try, and let us know what you think. We're on GitHub, and we'd be happy to hear from you, your feedback on what you would like to see in future versions. Thank you.